This video is going to go over some of the updates that have been made to the Geometry Points app. So I'm talking about version 1.0.1.0. The previous video did a good job going over everything, so I'm not going to redo all the features. I'm just going to go over the new things that were added. So you can launch this from the survey section under the reports, but we also added a button over here in the geotechnical section, as some of the things we added were to replace this geotechnical report app, so it made sense to put it in this section as well. Either way, both buttons launch the same app. So when you first launch it, you're going to see there's now a filter options section, and by default you'll be on the filtered survey points. And the previous video did a good job of going over kind of how you could set that up to filter your list down here. So I won't go over that again. There's also an all survey points. So this replaces the checkbox that used to be kind of over here. This will just display all your geometry and survey points. So no filtering going on at all. And then there's now geotech points to filter the list to just show the geotechnical points. Okay, so the next thing you'll notice is I've added an elevation source. So the previous version, all it really pulled was the 3D elevation. So if it was a 3D point, it was able to pull that elevation, which is great for the survey points because those are in 3D. But the geometry points are typically being placed in 2D and don't actually have a 3D elevation on it. But when they are placed, the geometry tools for placing a point do have the ability to define an elevation, and that gets added as a rule to that point. And the previous version wasn't bringing that in, so now I've given the ability to read that data, and that's what you'll see here, this rule geometry elevation. And then I've also added an ability to get the elevation from the active surface. So if you have an active terrain, this will basically drape the point onto the terrain and get that draped elevation. Alright, so the way this works is it's logic top down to figure out what the source should be for a given point. So if it's checked on, it's going to read that line. So we'll start at the top. It says use 3D point elevation if it's greater than 0. So if the point has a 3D elevation, it's going to use that. If not, then it's going to move on to the next line. So if it's checked on, it's going to use this next line. It says else use, and this one says rule geometry elevation. So if the point has a rule geometry elevation, so if it's greater than 0, then it's going to use it. If not, it'll move on to the next line, which I don't have checked on. If it wasn't checked on, then it wouldn't be in use. But if you check it on, it says, okay, now I'm going to check, can the point be draped onto the active surface, and is that elevation greater than 0? If so, I'm going to use that. If not, then I have found a source for elevation. I'm going to leave it at 0. Okay, you can change the order of these around. So if you wanted to check for the rule geometry first, you could. You could easily check things off. So see if I check those two off, then I'm only going to be looking at the active surface. So you can see here I'm getting that, and I should say I've added this column. So now that there are different sources, you're going to want to know what source that point is using for its elevation. That's what this column is for. It'll say what the source is. So as I check these back on, there's ruled. If I scroll down to the survey points, you'll see there's where it's getting its elevation from. Okay, so that's how that's working. The next thing I added was this exclude null alignments. It's checked on by default. So what was happening was something like this. You get into a file and it was picking up all these extra linear features here that didn't have a name or anything. So I'm just going to hide those for you there. I also added this little slider here, so I can resize this if I needed to. And this one has been here. I just made it black because it was kind of hard to see that slider. Alright, and then the last button I've made or added was the geotech report. So the way you use this button is you're going to select the points that you want to include in your report, and then you're going to select what alignment you want to use to get the station offset values, and then you're going to hit this geotech report. Now if you're inside ProjectWise, it would bring up the ProjectWise Save As dialog. Since I'm inside, I'm not inside ProjectWise, I'm just getting the regular Windows dialog, so I'll just save over this demo, and it's going to create a CSV file, and that CSV file will just have a couple columns. So it'll have the name, the station, the offset, the direction, which is the offset side left or right, elevation, northing, easting, description, the feature name, and then the alignment name. And then you can use that file with the rest of the geotechnical process, which this video is not going to go over. Hopefully you guys like the enhancements. If you guys have any more ideas, feel free to shoot them our way.